British runner Joe Pavey says athletes have lost faith in the sport's governing body after an investigation found embedded corruption. The European 10,000-metre champion has questioned whether the IAAF can police itself. Darren Campbell is a former Great Britain sprinter.
It's like you were participating in a sham, in something where I guess almost at times you didn't really have a chance. Certain people potentially were protected. When it goes all the way to the top of the organisation that's supposed to govern the sport, it creates a huge problem.
It's claimed that 900,000 new primary school places need to be created at schools in England. The call has been made by the local government association on deadline day for primary school admissions. The government says it's investing £23 billion to create 600,000 more spaces. Leaders of the Anglican Church have suspended the US Episcopal Church for 3 years for accepting gay marriage. Lesbian and gay Anglicans and supporters of equal marriage say they're hurt at the decision. Jane Ozane is a member of the General Synod.
I think it's appalling, quite frankly. At no point in the letter or the statement does it give any indication of any recognition paid to the LGBT community around the world. I think we're completely swept to one side as if we don't exist at all. The fact that we're not even made mention of it, I think is appalling.
3 men have been convicted for their involvement in the Hatton Garden heist. Carl Wood, William Lincoln and Hugh Doyle were part of a group that stole £14 million worth of jewellery, gold and cash, and all facing long prison sentences. New figures suggest that hundreds of British families have stopped their deceased relatives' organs being donated, even if they were on the official register. NHS Blood and Transplant wants to change its approach and no longer formally seeking family consent. Our health correspondent is Jane Draper.
That rate of refusal against a relative's known wishes has stayed pretty constant over about the last 6 years. It's about 1 in 7 donations that would have taken place from the register that end up not going ahead.
George Osborne says Britain's EU referendum is a once-in-a-lifetime decision. The Chancellor has told Newsnight it's unrealistic to assume the poll will be repeated. He describes himself as a Eurosceptic but says he's optimistic about reaching a deal on EU reforms. The revenge western Revenant leads the way at this year's Oscars. It's nominated in 12 categories, including Best Picture. Jamie Donahue is a filmmaker from Leeds. He's nominated in the Best Live-Action Short Film category for Shock, which is based on events in Kosovo.
I visited the country in 2010. I went to shoot a commercial for 3 days. I mean, I flying in volcano erupted, and I couldn't get a flight out for 5 weeks. And in that time, I met some incredible people and began to learn what had happened with the war and the history of the country. And I just couldn't believe what happened, and I felt I needed to write a film for this.
And actors and directors who worked with Alan Rickman have been paying tribute after he died of cancer at the age of 69. Emma Thompson, who was his co-star in Love Actually, said she remembers his humour, intelligence, wisdom and kindness. Ellen Smith now has the sport.
Away from the athletics, Andy Murray will face 18-year-old Alexander Zverev from Germany in the first round of the Australian Open tennis. Aliash Bedene faces the USA's Steve Johnson, while in the women's draw, Johanna Konta is up against Venus Williams, and Heather Watson faces Hungary's Tamia Babos. England will be looking to take the final 3 wickets on the second morning of the third test against South Africa in Johannesburg. The hosts will resume on 267 for 7. England are yet to bat. Aston Villa's newly appointed chairman Steve Hollis says the club do not fear relegation. Villa at the bottom of the table, 8 points from safety. Hollis, who's a local businessman, told BBC Sport that the club needs a shake-up, but says spending money on players is not the solution. Elsewhere, Bristol City have sacked manager Steve Cottrell. The Championship strugglers have failed to win in 7 matches. And Barry Hawkins is through to the semi-finals of the Masters Snooker. He beat Mark Allen by 6 frames to 2. Ronnie O'Sullivan is also through to the last 4 after beating Mark Selby 6-3.
This is BBC 5 Live on digital, online, smartphone and tablet.
Well, there will be some clear spells, but there will still be wintry showers in the north and west to start Friday. There'll be a widespread frost too, with some icy patches forming, and it will be quite breezy as well. Most parts, though, will see some sunshine later on, and bands of occasionally wintry showers will move southward during the day. It's going to be cold everywhere, very cold in the north. Highs of 3 for Edinburgh and 5 for Cardiff.
BBC 5 Live.
Sunday, 5 Live Investigates gets to the heart of the stories that matter to you.
We have actually been looking in detail at that very specific group.
That figure is one that we cannot in justice live with as a government or as a nation.
This week we ask why some patients with serious conditions are having to wait hours for treatment in A&E. 5 Live Investigates this Sunday at 11 with me, Adrian Goldberg.
It's 5 Live on AM and FM around the UK, on digital and online. I'm Carissa Chatterton and we're up all night. Damning report from the World Anti-Doping Agency, this time focusing on the world governing body of athletics. So we're going to be asking what's next for the IAAF, asking if Sebco is the right man for the job. Also this morning, after the terror attack in Jakarta, which Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for, what kind of links does the group have to Indonesia? And of course, we're going to be paying tribute to this man.
Scripts for lepers and orphans. No more merciful beheadings. And call off Christmas.
Of course, Alan Rickman feeling like a huge part of my childhood's gone away today. Whether you knew him as Severus Snape or the Sheriff of Nottingham or even Bad Harry, we'll raise our wands to the sky for Alan Rickman. But first this morning, top officials within athletics' world governing body organised and enabled conspiracy and corruption, according to an independent report. The report, commissioned by the World Anti-Doping Agency, also found that the IAAF's leadership could not have been unaware of the extent of doping in athletics and the non-enforcement of applicable anti-doping rules. Former IAAF President Lamine Diack, who was arrested and charged in November, was accused of having personal knowledge of fraud and extortion, but no blame was attached to current athletics chief Lord Coe. Tim Jotsky is former sports editor at the Daily Mail and a senior consultant at PHA Media. I asked him what he made of the report.
Well, it is shocking. Even though we were prepared for it, we were expecting these revelations, you cannot help but despair at what has come out today. The level of corruption embedded in the organisation from the top down, it is very, very depressing, and I think it's unprecedented really for a governing body of a sport to be discredited in this way. I think even the FIFA scandal arguably pales in comparison.
You know, you talk about how this has discredited the IAAF. Just what kind of damage is this going to do long term?
Well, I think it's going to do immense damage if the organisation doesn't seriously reform itself now. I think the opportunity is there to really return to ground zero and say we've got to completely start again, because any governing body has to have credibility if we're going to believe what we see. It organises world championships. We want to believe in the athletes who we watch, and I think that there has to be a completely different approach. And I think Lord Coe accepted that today. I think he admitted it was a failed organisation, and he said that there had to be a culture where cover-ups were a thing of the past, and the organisation is no longer in denial. I think those are encouraging signs, but it's easy to come out with those words. To actually reform an organisation which is made up of 214 members, which is actually more than the United Nations, is a completely different thing.
You talk about needing a completely different approach. What do you think that would look like?
Well, I think the first thing is that the whistleblowers who were brave enough to bring some of these doping allegations to public attention have been completely let down. Some of them have been in hiding, and I think that whole culture needs to change. I think there needs to be massive resourcing of the anti-doping efforts. I know Lord Coe's talked about doubling the budget. I think that's the least we should expect. I think there also has to be a one strike and you're out, ban for life approach. I think these are the sort of fundamental things that are needed if we are going to be able to believe again in this organisation.
What sort of response do you think that's going to get from athletes?
I think there are many athletes who would who would welcome that. I think that one of the very difficult issues that I know UK athletics have been wrestling with is if you're trying to draw a line under the scandal and you're trying to show you've changed, what is an appropriate response? And they've talked about just removing all records from the record books. I think that is a draconian measure that probably is a step too far. But I think symbolically it's quite interesting that they're talking in that language. I think the majority of athletes would like to race clean, to perform clean, and to think that it was a level playing field. So clearly we have a country such as Russia where doping was institutionalised, and no one's naive enough to think that that's suddenly going to go away. But I think what we can do is give much greater resources to those who are making efforts to actually outwit the dopers. It may never happen completely, but certainly we can give them a much better chance of pulling it off.
There's a lot of focus on athletics this year, particularly it's an Olympic year. What do you think is going to be enough to make the public believe in this body again?
Well, I think it's a very good question. I mean, I think we are able to suspend our disbelief when it comes to the Olympics. I think we're all kind of quite desperate to believe in what we see. I think if you take the analogy of cycling, I think one of the most depressing things was in the Tour de France this year, which should have been a really glorious triumph for Froome, and instead he was having to fend off allegations of doping. And I think what Chris Froome and Sky tried to do was to come out with a very transparent approach. And I think that something similar is needed in athletics. Paul Radcliffe has been testing her innocence, making available her records, and so on. And I think that is something which needs to become commonplace across the sport. But I do think that there's always going to be lingering question marks, and it's very, very difficult for the sport to dispel those fears that watching is not really particularly.
I mean, Dick Pound today put his faith really in Lord Coe and said that he is the person to kind of deal with this crisis and, you know, deal with sorting this out. What do you think? Do you think he's the right man for the job?
I think he is. I think Lord Coe, very unusually, really got things wrong when he took over as president. We all understand the need sometimes when you're trying to win elections to say certain things, curry favour with certain groups, but the way that he referred to the now disgraced David Diak as the spiritual leader of athletics, the way he very much discounted suggestions that the IAAF had been complicit in doping allegations, I think both were mistakes. I think the fact that he so reluctantly relinquished his role as Nike ambassador really was forced into it. I think that's a mistake. I think he should have done that much earlier. But I think what has come out today is, if not them, then who? And that's something which Michelle Roten over doping in UK sports said. I think that's the sentiment that's been echoed quite widely. He is a really substantial figure. I think he is very aware that real reform, is needed. I think in any crisis like this, there has to be a four-step approach: apologise, investigate, punish, reform. And I think he certainly apologised today. He's accepted that this is a failed organisation. I think punishment is clearly going to happen. The reform is really the crucial part, and is he the man to carry it through? I think he's already tried to do certain things in terms of reforming the governance and streamlining it and bringing in a CEO. I think all those things will help, but he does have a long way to go to restore his personal credibility.
How difficult is it going to be for him to distance himself from those previous denials now that we've seen, this body of damning evidence?
I think it will be difficult. I mean, in some senses, the report was a little bit paradoxical because, on the one hand, Dick Pound said that the council could not have been unaware of the extent of doping in athletics, and on the other hand, it talked about this illegitimate governance structure outside the organisation that the president had set up. So I think what was quite interesting was having first of all suggested that anyone that close to the seat of power in the organisation must have known something was going on. Dick Pound then went on to say, Seb Coe is the man to lead the reputational recovery mission, and he really endorsed him so strongly that I think it's slightly drawn a line under the suggestion that Coe should stand down. I mean, if you equate this to a corporate crisis in any FTSE 100 company, for instance, immediately I think the chief executive would have to stand down. It would be inconceivable that he would survive. You'd have to draw a line under it and bring someone new in. I think in this case, because Dick Pound has endorsed him, I think he's able to draw strength from that. And because I suppose he is so new to the role, and he can say, look, I was vice president for 7 years, but I didn't really know what's going on because the role isn't what it might be cracked up to be. It's perhaps a more symbolic role than it should be, and I'm going to change it and make sure that anyone occupying that senior role in the organisation is accountable for what happens within the organisation. So I think Lord Coe can turn it round, but I think he certainly has to eat a pretty hefty dose of humble pie.
And one of the things that was said during today's press conference was about, particularly with it being an Olympic year, wanting this kind of worldwide involvement in athletics. They want everybody to be involved. They want people to be passing these tests. Do you think athletics can clean up its image in time for these Olympics?
Well, I think sometimes our memories are blissfully short, and I think once you get sort of sucked into the excitement of the Olympics and seeing great feats, I think a lot of us do suspend our disbelief. And yes, I think it can, but I think what's quite interesting is athletics does face a real struggle to take on other sports, and it has to fight for column inches, it has to fight for coverage, and Lord Coe often talks about that. And I think that if it is going to be tainted as a sport, it makes that all the more difficult to do. And if you are going to get the best young sportsmen and women going into athletics, choosing to take that up as a sport rather than going into some of the other sports, you need to have something that really people can believe in. And I think every time we get a scandal like this, it does damage that, and it lessens the chances that perhaps parents will want their children to go into the sport. And I think Lord Coe is very, very conscious of that, and I think that's part of his mission is to try and to turn that round. But it isn't going to be easy.
That was Tim Jotsky, who's a former sports editor at the Daily Mail and now a senior consultant at PHA Media. Now, the really sad news yesterday morning that the actor Alan Rickman, known for films including Harry Potter, Truly, Madly, Deeply and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, has died at the age of 69. He'd been suffering from cancer.
That's it then. Cancel the kitchen scraps for lepers and orphans. No more merciful beheadings. And call off Christmas.
Would you like it gift wrapped?
Yes, all right.
Lovely. Almost finished?
Almost finished? What else can there be? You're going to dip it in yogurt? Cover it with chocolate buttons?
Who knows? We're going to pop it in the Christmas box.
But I don't want a Christmas box.
But you said you wanted it gift wrapped.
I did, but...
This is the final flourish.
Can I just pay?
All we need now...
Oh, God.
Is a sprig of holly.
No bloody holly.
But sir,
leave it, just leave it. I have described Mr. Willoughby as the worst